Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Ayo. Papuji's all the way in the corner. We're coming to you from Gowanus, Brooklyn. Today's video is about strength and sustainability for movement building. So it's going to be a general practice with some strength building, some stretching, but really with this idea of how do we sustain our energy when we're doing community organizing, activism. You may want some blocks or something to support you under your hands, possibly a strap. It's always nice to have a little padding for your knees. And a chair might be helpful for support. There will be some level changes coming up to standing. Collect what you need, get comfortable, put some music on, and let's go. So we're going to start today's practice lying on the back. And as we get on the back, I'm just going to share a little bit of context. Today is the day of the Black Trans Lives Matter rally at Brooklyn Museum, which I'm trying to get out the door to in about 25 minutes. So I may miss a few things or skip a few things, and I apologize for that. So as you arrive on your back, I just invite you to think about what's happening in the world around you right now. So we're not trying to push those things aside. We're not trying to create a completely different reality, but we're taking this moment for ourselves, for our own bodies, to ground and to center. For me, when I take the time to ground and center, then I'm less likely to react from a place of trauma. So I invite you to start to feel your back along the floor. Just imagining on your inhales that your back can expand and widen from side to side. And as you're starting to make contact with the earth, I'll just invite you to think about who came before you on this land, both in your own life and also on the particular land where you are. Today I'm in Brooklyn, land of the Lenape people, and just honoring how blessed I am to exist, to be here today. Claiming your space, claiming your seat. We're going to inhale and widen the back of the body. And then we're going to start to lengthen the exhales. And as you lengthen the exhale, I'm going to invite you to make an S or an ah sound. I'm going to make an S sound for today. It'll be a little hissy in the microphone, so you can turn down the volume if you need to. But we're going to inhale and breathe into the back of the body. And then lengthening the exhales. And then when you're ready again, you can inhale and exhale. Find that gentle S sound. And as you find that S sound, I invite you to think about just releasing upwards towards the top of your head. So you feel your spine releasing into its length. So what happens is you find this S sound is that you're actually slowing the air from escaping your body, which is creating a little more sustainability in your muscular structure. It just gives you a little more stability in your posture. One more when you're ready, inhaling. And that long S sound as you exhale. Thinking about the spine releasing upwards towards the head. All right, on your next inhale, you can reach your arms up overhead. They can be bent or straight. Find some stretching that feels good to you. And then right away, I'm gonna roll myself over and come onto hands and knees. Now, if you're not taking hands and knees, if you don't do weight bearing in your hands, you can also use a wall and come to stand to do these things on a wall. So that also puts just a little bit of pressure into your hands without having weight bearing in the wrists and the arms. Okay, on hands and knees or pressure with the wall, we're just going to find some inhaling and lifting open through the heart. And then exhale, we're gonna press the spine up towards the sky, and then we're gonna stay here. And I'm just thinking about taking the spine between my shoulder blades and pressing it up, thinking about taking my tailbone and tucking it under. I find a nice arch here, a nice width. I'm spreading my shoulder blades across the back. And then I'm going to draw myself just into a neutral spine. So I'm not in a cat or a cow. I'm not arched. The front of my collarbones can be nice and open. And I'm going to think about lifting my front body towards my back body so that I find a little bit of lift and core support here. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and tuck my toes under, and I'm going to just lift my knees up off the floor. And then I'm going to lower them back down. Just to show that, we're going to take an inhale here. And then you're going to exhale, and you're going to float your knees up off the floor. If you're working at the wall, instead of lifting your knees up off the floor, you could slowly bend your elbows on your exhale and then inhale to straighten. That's if you're upright and at the wall. All right, one more time, inhaling. And exhale, finding the strength of that exhale, the sustainment of your exhale, nice and long. And then we're going to release that down. We're going to make a transition down onto the belly. So whatever you need to get there. Okay, so here down on the belly, I'm going to bring the tops of my feet down to the floor. I'm going to press the tops of my feet down so that my knees lift up. So I have a light engagement of my legs. I'm not lifting my feet up off the floor. I'm actually pressing them down. I'm going to interlace my hands behind my back. But if that does not work for you, then you can also use a strap. It's the same thing. It's just about finding a bind between the hands so that there's a little bit of resistant pressure between the hands. Now from here, we can pull the clasp of the hands back and lift the chest up. Now if this is hurting in your lower back, you're going to think about drawing your navel up towards the sky or in towards the spine, maybe pushing the pubic bone or the front of the pelvis towards the floor. And then now we are going to float the legs up off the floor. We're going to have wide legs here, so the width of the hip sockets, so parallel legs. And then we're going to inhale, we're going to widen the legs, and exhale, come back to parallel. 4 more times like that. Inhale. Nice slow sustainment on your exhale, finding some strength in your body as you find some openness in the heart. And then when you're ready, you can go ahead and lower that down, bringing a cheek to the mat, bringing the arms down. The next thing we're going to come to do is a quad stretch, and I'm going to show it here on the belly, just that you can bring one hand back to catch hold of your foot. Now, if that doesn't work for you, you can use a strap along your ankle to be pulling that foot in, and you want to be feeling it on the front of the upper leg. Now, if you're feeling it in your knee, you're going to try to let up on the foot a little bit, and you can also try and this at standing. So you could stand on one foot and draw the other foot in. So once you find that stretch, you can start to breathe into it. Again, maybe sending the pubic bone or the front of the pelvis down towards the floor if it's hurting in your lower back. If you tend not to have lower back pain and you want to come into a slightly higher back bend, you could press up on that elbow or that forearm. I've got my right arm in front of me and I'm pointing it over towards the left. So figuring out what works for you, just finding an opening on the front of that leg. I'm flexing and pointing my foot a little bit just to have some activity there. And then when you're ready, release that down. You might let your toes come to touch for a moment, wiggle your hips from side to side. And then we're going to take the other side. So grabbing hold of the foot or a strap. You might have come up to standing, that works too. We want to take the pressure out of the knee, so we want the stretch to be on the front of the thigh. If you aren't able to take it out of the knee, go ahead and release the foot down. And again, if you're coming up onto the forearm, you could press into the arm to find a back bend. Try not to let your shoulders sink to your ear, but find a little bit of activity there. Pressing the chest upwards maybe, or you might be lowering yourself down or have your head down. I'm going to again just find some gentle flexing and pointing of my foot, keeping it a little active. And then when you're ready, we'll come down. I'm going to reach my arms forward here for a moment and bring my forehead down to the floor. And then I'm going to practice that S sound again. And then from here you might stay or reach your fingertips out a little bit more, or bend your elbows if that's available to you. Let your fingertips point upwards towards the sky. Sustaining a sense of an open heart here. When you're ready, we're going to push ourselves back towards hands and knees. And we're going to start to work ourselves up towards standing. So however you want to get there, if you have a wall in front of you or a chair next to you, we'll come up to stand. Okay, so here in standing, we're going to just work on a little strength building in the legs and the back. So we're going to come to stand with the feet wider than you would, like if you're in a traditional Tadasana or mountain pose. So just let your feet be nice and easy and wide. And we're going to come back to that breath of the back of the body widening on the inhales, and the exhale sustains us upwards, right? Not pulling, but the sense that the floor comes up to meet us. So that instead of collapsing on your exhale and letting your body kind of sink, we're sustaining an upwards motion by thinking of the spine floating up towards the top of the head. I'm going to stay with that feeling, and I'm going to bend my knees forward in line with my toes. I'm going to keep my spine nice and long, so the back of the head and the back of the pelvis in line with one another, and then I'm just going to take that shape forward, hinging right at the hip so my back stays long. Again, not collapsing down, but letting the chest stay open, letting the back stay long. Notice if your tendency is to lift up and find an arch in your lower back, and see if instead you can let your sits bones drop down towards your heels, finding some width and some openness on the back. My hands are going to come onto the chair or onto a wall here, and then I'm just going to tip my weight forward. Now from here I'm going to take 3 of those S breaths. I'm going to stay nice and easy through the sides of the neck. Finding this easy, soft sense of strength. Finding another S breath. How is this creating a sense of sustainability? How can you maintain this strength and sustainability without getting tight in the body or overworking? And then I invite you to begin to imagine you have little strings on your back pulling up and back towards the top of the wall behind you so that your joints unravel, tension-free, nice and easy. You could release your arms by your sides. One more breath there. Inhale, finding the width on the back of the body. Again, allowing the S breath to just float you upwards. All right, we're going to step the feet a little bit closer to under the hip sockets. You can use your chair or your wall in front of you, your choice. We're going to come into a high lunge pose, so reaching that back leg back behind, and you can figure out how good it feels to have your foot back behind you. And then from here, bringing the hands onto the hips or maybe the arms up. We're going to inhale and straighten the front leg, and then exhale, softly bend the front knees. Finding your strength. Finding your sustainability. And how can you do all of that with a sense of ease? I'm going to bring my hands onto my hips as I straighten my front leg. I'm going to flip my back heel down onto the floor, toes out to the side, and then the front knee bending right in line with the first and second toe. Some of you think of this as warrior 2 pose. So as you reach your arms out to this T shape, I just invite you to notice, like, where are you tense, right? Sometimes I see even the hands, like, right? How can you soften into this and find a sense of what is the minimal amount of muscular effort that you need to sustain the pose, to sustain your alignment, to sustain your centeredness, but with ease. Last one. drawing yourself out of it, however feels good. You could bring your hands to your hips, step yourself out. We're going to come towards a long spine. Some options here: you could use a wall or a chair. If you have a downward facing dog practice, you can take downward facing dog. I'm going to step my feet back here, and I'm going to pull my hips back. Papuji is ready to march. Papuji is ready to rest. All right, so I'm not over pressurizing through my shoulders and my back here. I'm thinking about my armpits as a little bit buoyant. I'm thinking about pulling my hips back. I have a nice bend in my knees. I'm getting lots of length through the back of the neck. I can inhale and widen the back of my body. And exhale, find my length. We're going to take 2 more breaths here. And 1 more. All right, finding that same sense of ease. You can walk forward if you're in downward facing dog, stepping to the front of your mat. If you're at the wall or the chair, stepping forward. And we'll come back into a high lunge pose on the opposite side. Back leg can step back, front knee can bend. You could bring your hands onto your hips or float your arms up. And we're going to inhale and straighten the front leg. Nice, slow, easy exhale. Finding your strength. Inhaling up, feeling your length grow tall. Feeling that length sustain as you exhale and bend your front knee. And never collapsing down. And inhaling 1 more time. Finding a nice ease as you exhale. I'm going to bring my hands onto my hips, flip my back heel down, toes out towards the side. And then warrior 2 pose, bending the front knee in line with the toes, bringing the arms out to a T shape. And then again, not rigid, not dropping. Right? Where is the muscular support that you need to sustain yourself here? How much strength and power do you need? How can you not overuse your strength here? I'm pressing into my back leg. My front knee is bent, so my legs are deeply supporting me. I'm not sinking into my lower back, but I feel my heart and my chest lifting up towards the sky. When you're ready, stepping yourself out of it. If you're coming to downward facing dog, bringing your hands to the floor, or stepping yourself back towards your chair or the wall. And then again, walking the feet back, finding a long spine. All right, we're going to come back up to stand. So if you're in down dog or towards the wall, wherever you are, walking your feet forward. We're going to take just a pause for a moment here. I just invite you to come to stand. You could press your palms together in front of your heart or bring your arms by your sides. Now, in your organizing work or however you think of your life, if you are doing some kind of social justice work, how can we use this connection to the earth and to history, to those that came before us, to those that have done the work, to supporting our sense of resiliency and lightness, our buoyant body, knowing when the time is to rest and knowing when we can take this energy and move it forward. All right, when you're ready, we are going to come back down onto the floor so you can make that transition however you'd like. Now we're going to spend a moment just opening the legs. So if you're familiar with pigeon pose, you can take that, or we'll take a number 4 shape, crossing the ankle over and drawing the opposite thigh towards the body. So I have my right ankle crossed over. I'm drawing my left thigh in. I could also use a strap behind my left thigh. And I did this in the last video, and it's just because I think it's a really important pose for general low back and hip health. If you want to find a little rocking here to open out, you can. Especially important if you're doing a lot of street action, like if you find yourself standing at a rally or marching a lot. And also really important if you're doing a lot of your organizing work in front of a computer and you're sitting a lot in a chair. Finding a little relief for these muscles. I prefer to do it on the back because it's a little bit softer and easier stretch on the muscles, unless you know that pigeon pose is okay for you. But for those of you who don't often do this stretch, it's a great place to start so that there isn't too much pressure on the muscles. Okay, when you're ready, we're going to take the opposite side, just crossing the left ankle over, pulling the right thigh in towards the body. Again, you can use a strap along the thigh to facilitate that. So I think the body is a great analogy for organizing work, for social justice work, that we're looking to find strength, stamina without stagnation. So we want to find a sense of stretching and an open body, as well as not an overstretched body. So hopefully this practice was helpful to you in finding some of that strength as well as some of that openness. Taking a couple more breaths in this pose. And then we'll move into one more stretch. So the last stretch we're going to come into is using a strap or a belt. You could also just do it with your arms or your hands if you don't have a belt, but I am going to show an option to open up the bones of the bottom of the foot. So I'm finding the midway point of my strap. I'm folding it in half, and then I'm going to bring that midway point to the back of my ankle. So not the bottom of the foot, but the back of the ankle. And then from here, I'm going to take the right side of the strap over towards the left and the left side of the strap over towards the right until I have an X on the bottom of my foot. So I find it easiest to come up to sit and just find this position and then roll myself onto the back. And then when I find myself rolled onto the back, then I can go ahead and separate the strap a little bit so that I'm separating the bones of the feet as I stretch the back of my leg. Now I find that having my foot right over my hip is quite enough for my hamstring, and the energy of grounding downwards of my leg just grounds my femur bone towards my pelvis, which can be a lot of relief for the low back. And then you might draw the elbows a little open, collarbones open. Maybe that opens out the bottom of the foot. And just one more breath there. When you're ready, you can release that down. I find it most helpful to just come right back up to sit. You do have to undo the strap from your hands as you go. Again, finding about the midpoint of the strap, wrapping it to the back of the ankle, crossing it across the bottom of the foot. And then when you're ready, coming to lie down on the back again. I'm going to bend my elbows and spread wide a little here through the bottom of the foot and feeling the femur bone, my thigh bone, ground in towards my hip socket. And when you're ready, you can draw yourself down. We'll come to rest. If you tend to have lower back pain, you can have your feet as wide as your mat with your knees coming to touch. If you don't have any lower back pain, then you can lengthen your legs. And then I invite you to come back to your awareness of the earth, the grounding of your back towards the floor, remembering who has walked this earth before you, who will walk this earth after you. Knowing that the time that you took to practice today is a dedication towards those things, finding your centeredness and your groundedness, to acknowledge history and to change the future. When you're ready, you can inhale and reach your arms up overhead. And I'm going to exhale and find some movement. I'm going to roll to one side when I'm ready. Oh, not ready yet. If there's anything else your body needs to do, be sure to take care of it. I hope this practice was helpful for you today. Just a reminder that when we're looking for change in the world around us, we also find the change inside of us. So I hope this practice slowed you down a little bit to find some of that and take care of yourself, remembering that whatever role you play with a sense of consciousness and intention is an important role.